everybody, and welcome back to another special edition of On the Record with Out on That Line. I'm Alex, your host, and with me today is friend of the show, frequent guest on the Record, Tanner. How you doing, Tanner?
I'm excellent. Thanks for having me back. It's great to be back.
On the Record, to me, has always been a series that was about deeper dives into an artist. Because we tend to do the reaction videos are just obviously reacting to something you never heard. The podcast itself is reviews of an album, but I've always seen On the Record as looking at an artist through the lens of a specific album. And we're here to do that today. And what album are we cracking into today?
Well, I don't know. It might be a little bit of this.
Look at that.
My.
That's crazy. You would never guess that we would do Frank Zappa on this channel. But we are here to talk about his 1979 album, Sheik Yerbouti.
Some of you might not agree, 'cause it probably likes a lot of misery. Take a while and you will see.
So what was your foray into Frank Zappa?
I had always known of Frank Zappa, knew who he was. Never really listened to his music, never really gave him a chance. It's kind of similar to what you and Jeff discussed on the Zappa Six-Pack Challenge episode of like, oh, this guy's wacky, he's a drug-addled, maniac or, whatever. It just wasn't my thing, or so I thought. And then I remember when you began, diving into him, you would bring him up a lot, and to be honest, I just never listened, or if I did listen, I never got it. This was maybe 1 or 2 years ago. I think I reached out to you and I said, okay, give me an album, and you had me listen to this one, and I remember just immediately being like, okay, yep, A, I get it, B, certain things are standing out for me already on my first listen, and then I just kind of rolled that album for, as I'm wont to do, probably like 12 days, just binging it. I would say that this album itself is, as much as I loved Joe's Garage, and I still do, this is the ultimate for me. And as we dive deeper into it, I think you'll kind of see why.
In many ways, Joe's Garage is the perfect distillation of who Frank Zappa was, what his values were, what his interests were. But in terms of accessibility and a perfect distillation of who he was, I think it's got to be this one.
Yeah, and I the aspect production-wise of it, the fact that it's, a live album with dubs, and dubs not in the way of like Led Zeppelin, Song Remains the Same, where they're like, oh shit, this sucks, we have to re-record everything on a soundstage and trick people. This is like the prime example of adding dubs in to fill out the sound and to enhance. And again, you look at him as a composer, and you look at sheet music for, let's say, an orchestra, and there are so many parts, there's so many moving parts to these songs. Some of them might be fart sound effects, some of them might be crazy xylophone parts, but in the Zappa orchestra, they all carry weight.
And a lot of his tricks like that are present here. The pronunciation of it, I've never gotten xenochrony. Xenochrony. I think it's xenochrony.
I think it's xenochrony, yeah.
Like if you were to say like it's a xenochronic method,
yeah,
whatever.
Yes.
But this idea of he would have a guitar solo and he'd be like, well, I really like that. I'm going to drop it into a completely different context and change its entire meaning. And sometimes it doesn't fit, but the big thing to remember about him is he was only making music to amuse himself.
Yes.
This is a special one for me, too, because I don't know how far back in the lore I've gone, but it was the one Zappa album that was in my uncle's record collection. And you could tell what was my uncle's because it had someone else's name on it, which means that he stole it.
Nice.
But Sheik Yerbouti was the only Zappa that he had. And I remember looking at it and being like, this fucking weird guy. He was like a boogeyman figure. I feel like it would awaken some demons in me to listen to his music. Do you want to jam through some of the tracks? We're not going to do all of them. We're just going to kind of pick our favorites and get started. I like to give special mention to the first and the last track on an album. I think it's just...
And this one is definitely worthy of that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sets the tone.
Yeah.
I Have Been in You.
I have been in you. Baby, you have been in me.
Lyrically, it's classic Zappa, poo-poo caca sex jokes. Personally, I like the way that he sings it. It's got that Zappa kind of flow, you know what I mean? And I think it's a great opener. I'm somebody that really respects the art of the album and the track listing and everything. And having an opener that comes out and immediately sets the tone. It doesn't have to be a rocker. It can be any sort of style of song. But if it comes out and it kind of serves it up to you and says, hey, this is what your next hour and 20 minutes, expect this, And I think that this does a very, very good job of that with, again, the lyrical content about humping.
Yeah. fist each other. I'm sure I'll have to bleep that. But and the other thing is it pays tribute to his love of doo-wop. That's how he came up, was classical composers and doo-wop. It's generally agreed upon that he could write a pop song right down the middle if he wanted to. Mm-hmm. He could have made an entire career off of that, of just like mailing those in. That would have been very easy for him. And I feel like this kind of pays lip service to that idea where it's like, ooh, he's doing like a little like doo-wop thing, and then as soon as he's like, I have been in you and you have been in me, and you're like, got it.
Oh, little girl, there ain't no time to wash your stinky pants. Go ahead and roll over. I'm going in you again.
He's a talented gentleman lover.
And good with the quill.
Yes, a rapier wit. Yeah. The cool part is, again, these were recorded. The bulk of it was recorded live at Hammersmith in London.
Hammersmith
right?
Odeon.
Yeah, Hammersmith Odeon. And then there were some at Palladium in New York. And most of the overdubs were vocal. But I really appreciate the way that some of these were kind of meant as a medley in live performance. Mm-hmm. And the first couple songs on this, and then some in the Legendary Run, just feed into one another.
Yes. So
I've Been in You feeds into our next one that I know is a mutual favorite.
Yeah.
Flakes.
Flakes, they don't do no good. They never be working when they ought to should.
This is the first Zappa song that, like, and again, I really like Joe's Garage. I don't want to like understate the importance of that, but like the first time I heard Flakes, it clicked immediately. It's one of those Zappa songs where it's got like 4 or 5 different movements in it, and it just kind of ramps up each time. He sneaks in a Bob Dylan impression.
Well, the whole damn weekend came and went there, Frankie. Want to buy some acid, Bob? No.
The line where it goes on, want to buy some Mandy's bars? I love stuff like that so much in songs. I just can't get enough of stuff like that. It's funny, and it fits the song. It doesn't feel out of place. And then as the song just continues to ramp up, when it gets to that kind of ending part, the ooh, ooh, ooh. I'll put that musically up against just about anything for things that I like and the things that click with me.
This one is a really interesting look into his very unique politics. He's all over the place. He's anti-government, but he's pro-capitalism. He's like anti-union, but anti-censorship and pro-ownership. It's very, very interesting. Like, he would go around to the former communist bloc countries, and be like, don't become another country. What you have here is great. Congratulations on throwing off the chains of communism.
Yeah.
But don't become America. Stay you.
Yeah.
It's an anti-union song. Like, we called the plumber, and he came up and said, don't flush a tampon.
Yeah.
The toilet went crazy yesterday afternoon. The plumber, he says, never flush a tampon.
And the toilet blew up later on the next day. Ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah.
And the Bob Dylan part, real quick, by the way, do you know how that came about?
No.
That guy whose name, regrettably, I'm going up on right now, was fucking around making fun of Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And his delivery, because he kind of does like the little wacky whoopee.
Yeah.
So this guy was making fun of him, and Frank Zappa was like, that's going on the album. And we're going to turn it into a Bob Dylan type thing because obviously Bob Dylan, pro-labor, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So let's take the piss out of him and use a Bob Dylan character to talk about how much we hate unions and how nothing gets done. So it's an interesting little airing of the grievances on Frank's part.
Let me crack
a freshie.
Yeah.
Are you a fresh balloon? And so next we come to...
Hey there, people, I'm Bobby Brown. They say I'm the cutest boy in town. My car is fast, my teeth are shiny. I tell all the girls they can kiss my hiney.
Let's be honest, most Frank Zappa fans are 55 and older.
Yes.
So...
He doesn't skew young these days.
And not quite. You look on YouTube, I was like, I wonder if anyone else has talked about Sheik Yerbouti. Not a goddamn one of you people is doing what we're doing. We're keeping him alive. What are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, it's an atypical example of like the Zappa jokiness, the tongue-in-cheek, the biting social commentary that's kind of under a layer of comedy, of slapstick almost. Taken out of context, this song is simply and outrageously offensive. Like if you were to walk into a bar and this song was playing, and any given moment you could walk in and hear it out of context, you'd be asking some questions, I'm sure. I look at Frank Zappa very much as I look at Trey Parker and Matt Stone from South Park. It's like nothing's off limits. Everything is funny. Everybody is offendable, and every target's fair game. So a song like this, he's not pro any of the stuff that he's describing in the song.
I got a cheerleader here, wants to help with my paper. Let her do all the work, and maybe later I'll her. Oh God, I am the
But again, he does it with a very tongue-in-cheek and with a fair sense of humor and assholishness, if
Yes.
that's a word. Musically, for me, this song, the "Oh God, I am" like that musically, that like little walk down thing, I love. It's a great song. Again, if you're able to look past the lyrics and realize what the context of it is.
Right, because just singing about these things does not constitute an endorsement. You have to
Yes.
listen critically, and he really didn't do himself favors by being the caca man, because I think people would just assume like, oh, he thinks, we'll have to bleep this, but like and pegging are funny, and using homophobic slurs is funny, and
Yeah.
it's like what he's doing is satirizing a person who thinks that is okay.
Correct.
He believed in personal liberty. He's not shitting on anybody for their interests or delights. Like, that's the thing the critic Robert Christgau,
Yes.
fuck him, by the way.
Bomb.
You fuckhole. That's his thing. He was like, oh, Frank Zappa hates everything he doesn't like. And it's like, maybe he's just commenting on the world around him, man. He's not content to just sit there and let it happen around him. He's, how people are always like, I have a platform. He was just kind of like exploring the things that he was seeing, and I think that's utilized to great effect in this song. And again, I don't think he looked at it like, I'm doing important social justice work.
Correct.
I think he just went, this is something I see,
He's
and
call-
this is how I feel
He's
about
calling it. He's calling it as
Right.
he sees it. And it's relevant. Think about all of the sex scandals that exist in the world of
Right.
professional, collegiate, amateur sports. Like this came out in 1979, and the NFL season, which as we record this begins today, topical. You got a guy that has been suspended for most of the season for sexual misconduct. That is like literally taken from this song in 2020. Like he's a truth sayer.
I can take about an hour on the Tower of Power, as long as I get some little golden shower. Oh God, I am the American dream, with a spindle on my butt till it makes me scream.
Let's briefly discuss what we consider the beginning of the run.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to ask me, I would say it's the top of side 3.
When I got this record in the mail, and there's something about, and I'm just going to be a total hipster here, there's something about when like you're listening to an album and it's you have to keep flipping and this one's set up in one of the ways that I extremely dislike. It goes side 1, side 4 is record 1, and then side 2, side 3 are on the other record, so you have to actually change records to get to side 2 and side 3. So side 3 is like literally you've labored as much as you can to get to a side. You drop the needle on it, and the whole side is the run. It's perfect, and it exists by itself as side 3. I just love that aspect of it.
And business just immediately picks up here.
Yeah.
For an album that is otherwise like some of the stuff is hit or miss. Like, I'm so cute. I'm like, okay, I get it.
It's part of the journey. You know,
Right.
it's you can't have the battle at Helm's Deep without them walking for 45 minutes in the Two Towers.
That's exactly correct. That's
You know,
a great metaphor.
like
But-
they got to get there.
Yeah, and then your
Yeah,
reward
yeah.
is a song like Baby Snakes.
Watch me now.
Because, yeah, it starts that 5-song rip on side 3. And Baby Snakes is just like a little guy to get you into it. But it's got so much energy, and it's so supremely dumb. I mean, it's a song about dicks, you know? They're red and they're pink. They live in a tiny hole that's usually empty.
Tiny Two.
They live by a code, which stands for
Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers.
Like,
Yeah.
it's easy to consume.
And I remember the first time that we listened to this record together, you sang along to that part,
What stands for?
Motion picture and television engineer.
and I was like, "Oh yeah, gotta learn that."
Yeah.
yeah, like that. Again, you know, you want to buy some Mandy's Bob, like that stuff like that. It requires further listening for me as a weirdo like I am to be able to be like, I can sing along to this, and weird stuff's coming, and I know it's coming, and if I'm in a car full of people that don't know it's coming, it really emphasizes it. This song doesn't overstay its welcome, and it goes right into the big one for me.
Ooh, yeah.
It segues seamlessly into a song that, and I know you said that the vocals are obviously overdubbed after, because I don't know how you could physically play this drum part and sing it at the rate that Terry Bozzio does. But it is Trying to Grow a Chin.
I'm only 14, sickly and thin. Tried all of my life just to grow me a chin.
It's just audible perfection for me. It just, it's frantic. It's totally off the rails at the beginning. It starts off the rails, and then it works itself back into something that's way more cohesive and coherent, which I just dig because nobody does stuff like this.
Right.
Nobody starts you. It's almost like a reverse song.
That I Want to Be Dead part, like on its own, the first time you hear it, is great. And then you could just end the song. And in fact, you think it's ending. And then just
One more time for the world. I wanna be that fast, be that fast. I'm a little girl, give me some help.
the fake out ending is just like that brilliant, like, here's an extra scoop on your way out.
Of all the songs on this album, that if I were in a band and we wanted to cover a Zappa song, it would be that song. It would be that song. I love that song so much. That's a song that I go back and listen to multiple times in a row.
Giving it the fake out ending and the extra I Want to Be Dead because it's so good. If that sucked, you'd be like, just end it. Just
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Just chunk it. But we get a little bit more of what we love, and then it's this nice, subtle transition into...
I just dig the hell out of this song. It's got a great groove. He repeats stuff where he's like tiny, 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 bam, 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 bam. Talking about them tiny cookers, like
the people eat.
yeah. And like the rhythm is complex. It's totally absolutely all over the place. I'm sure like when you listen to it for the first time, you're like, what the hell is happening in this song? Then you go back and listen to it, and you're like, okay, there's sense to the chaos. Right. You know, there's 30 things happening. It's a cacophony of sound and sound effects and a crazy xylophone, but it makes sense.
It kind of does have that grimy New York at like late night kind of feel, and it's like I wish I knew this for certain, but it feels like a jam. It's like the jammiest, kind of grooviest. Like you can see them on stage, and he just kind of looks and is like, "Let's go again."
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Go again. Yep. I can absolutely. I wish I knew that for sure, but it definitely seems like a nice little jam session plunked in the center of this.
It rips. It moves. It's got crazy, like, syncopated parts. Bum, 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 bum. The drums are going off the rails, but everybody knows what they're doing. Like, it's one of those things where you're like, whoa, there's no way they can keep this up for a whole song, and then they do. Like, it's one of those things where it's like a train barreling down, and you're like, it's going to go off the rails at some point, and it never does.
Yeah. And then we cruise into the next song, which is very funny anomaly in his career, Dancing Fool.
Yeah.
I don't know much about dancing, that's why I got this song. One of my legs is shorter than the other and both my feet's too long. Of course now right along with them, I got no natural rhythm, but I go dancing every night. But one day I might get it right. I'm a dancing fool. I'm a dancing fool.
Absolute disco. And even if it's him making fun of disco, it's just a testament to how good of a musician and composer he is, that he can, like, it's almost like he listened to disco and was like, fuck, anybody can do this, I can do this, and then writes this. And did it get nominated for a Grammy?
It sure did.
Yeah,
it sure did.
So that's another just like piece of the Zappa puzzle. Like you mentioned earlier, like if he wanted to do mainstream stuff, he could just fucking do it, but he didn't want to do that. So he does a song essentially making fun of disco.
Right.
And it gets, you know, the highest plaudits in the music industry.
It's ostensibly a song about goofy white people going to do cocaine in a public forum, because you really think about, like, to me, the disco that stands out is you got the Bee Gees, but then you have songs like Disco Inferno, you have your Donna Summer, you have like disco has a very specific kind of, I'm pro disco. It has like a fun, soulful sound, and it's eminently danceable.
You're not going to ever find me saying a bad thing about disco.
We'll have to do a disco episode.
I got it all together now. Oh, yeah. With my very own disco clothes. Hey, my shirt's half open to show you my chain and the spoon for after my nose.
I don't see a lot of people dancing to this. I don't see it being cocaine-friendly music. But he wasn't making it for that. He was taking the piss out of the concept and the people that consumed it. And that makes me wonder, when it was nominated for a Grammy, did the nominating body go, yeah, we see what you're doing. That's pretty funny. So we're going to further the irony and you know, little wink, nudge, nudge. Hello, Carol Burnett's daughter. Like, we're going to kind of give it to you as being in on the bit. Or if they listen to it and went, this is bananas. This is great.
This is amazing. There's parts toward the end where he like adds an extra beat in. You know, I may be totally wrong, but I'm a.
I may be totally wrong, but I'm a.
Yeah.
I may be totally wrong, but I'm a. And that's how I can see like it's not super danceable, because the disco thing is that the disco beat is a constant. The disco beat does not change.
Four on the floor.
It's constant, and that's why it's so danceable, because there's no change to it. But he even puts the Zappa spin on it, and he adds beats here, and he changes the syncopation here. And it's a disco composition versus a disco song.
And I love the little, like, spoken comedy bit at the end. Looking for Mr. Goodbar? Mm-hmm. He's here.
Looking for Mr. Goodbar? Well, here he is. Wait a minute, I've got it. You're an Italian. You're Jewish? Love your nails.
And then what is it? What are you and I, Italian?
Yeah.
Oh, you're Jewish? Love your nails. You must be a Virgo.
Yeah.
Your place or mine. Like the utter sleaze. Like he had a great instinct for sleaze irrespective of this song, but like really puts it to good use here.
And then, like you said, right into, with the spoken word dialogue, right into Jewish princess.
Frank, you once wrote a song called Jewish Princess, which resulted in a lot of unpleasantness being directed towards you by various Jewish organizations. Was it all worth it?
It's a fine song, and if you're a Jewish princess and you haven't heard it yet, it's on the Sheik Yerbouti album. You go out there and listen to it, and remember that until somebody writes a song about you, you don't exist. And I wrote a song about Jewish princesses, and I provided certification for the whole bunch of you. It's got all of your stuff in there. It tells about what you do with your zits, what you do with your nose, what you do with every part of your body. I care. I wrote a song about you. And what do I get for my trouble? The ADL jumps up and down. Ungrateful wretch.
Another song, if you walk into a bar and you hear it out of context, or if you're at a red light and you pull up next to like a convertible or a car with its windows down and they're blasting it, you're probably going to cast some judgment on these folks.
A little bit.
Yeah. It's every Jewish stereotype just ramped way up. And down to some nitty-gritty vulgarity, like
With overworked gums.
who squeaks when she comes. Personally, my favorite line of the song is when they go, "I don't want no troll," and they roll the R on troll. For some reason, that just pops me every time. I believe the line is resolved by saying,
I just want a Yemenite hole.
"I just want a Yemenite hole."
Sure is.
But again, and it's got the caca, ooh, ooh, ee, ee, ooh. Like there's like just slapstick dumb stuff. There's biting, offensive language, all under the guise of this song that I don't really know where it came from. Like you could argue that it doesn't fit in this, but it does.
Well, and
like,
the thing is, for me, I'm unsure of its purpose, which
Yeah,
again
yes,
is
yeah,
not
yeah.
is not me being like cancel Zappa.
Correct.
But
what was the point? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I get what you're doing with Bobby Brown. I get what you're doing with Dancing Fool. What lovely Jewish woman pissed you off
Correct.
so much that
Correct.
you made this song?
Correct.
And again, it's so over the top and lines like Titanic tits and sandblasted zits.
Yeah.
A brazen little Jewish princess with Titanic tits and sandblasted zits.
What is it? Something a something with a pre-moistened dumper.
A grinder, a bumper with a pre-moistened dumper.
It invokes like smells and sounds. It's fucking gross. It's a gross song. But like, again, it makes me go like, who hurt you, Frank?
Mm-hmm.
Who made you
Yeah.
do this?
Yeah, because he's going hard in the paint on this person.
Yeah.
He's not pulling any punches. Not that he ever really did.
No, I don't think he
Yeah.
apologized in his life.
Yeah, so it's not so much like we're saying that it's crazy that he's writing a song like this. It's just like we just want to know who it was about or why it was written.
Well, so it's probably time to wrap this guy up. So we're on side 4. I guess we'll just talk about the last song, Yo Mama.
Yeah.
Maybe you should stay with your mama. She could do your laundry and cook for you. Maybe you should stay with your mama. You're really kind of stupid and ugly too.
It's for me it's interesting that it's called Yo Mama, but really what it is it like just showcases how good of a guitar player Frank Zappa was.
Oh yeah, big time.
And it's like a precursor to kind of the jam bands that would follow in the coming decades. And I mean, obviously the Grateful Dead were around at this time, but like, to me, this really like reeks of a band like an Humphreys McGee, or you know what I mean? Like, he's feeling it, let him go. You know, we'll just keep kind of vamping on what we do during the solo section, and he's just gonna go. We talk about Zappa as the composer and all these things, and this is a prime example of Zappa as the player, Zappa as the musician.
Well put. Yep, exactly. And it does. It exemplifies that connection with the guitar, and he's self-taught. You know what I mean?
It's
And I
absolutely
think
insane to me.
that is that's one of his strengths, because it didn't put him into this like paradigmatic thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you learn like that on like, as weird as this is to bring in, but like learning how to write a screenplay in grad school kind of got in my head a little bit.
Yeah.
I wrote very unafraid before I learned how
There's
to
like
do it.
rules to do it. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it takes you a while to get out of that mindset. So with him having never been trained, he's like, I don't know. I know what I want it to fucking sound like. I just have to figure out how to do it.
How to get the sound. I hear it up here. How do I do it with these and make it come out of that amp over there?
And just creating with the brakes off and making a 12-minute song to end the album. And it's this like wild, all over the place, frenetic jam, but it's not the kind of like shit you'd hear on Weasel's Rip My Flash, where it's like ping tong chipang ting ting ping ting.
Correct. Yeah, it's not that very
cohesive.
Eccentric. Yeah. No, it makes sense. Like, he's not. There's no like clattering, or, like disassociation with the rest of the album or even the rest of the song.
Right. It's a nice fat punctuation point on a really wonderful double album that I highly recommend to anyone who's thinking about checking out Frank Zappa. This is the one I would recommend starting off with.
And if you want to take a small bite off it, just go from Baby Snakes to Jewish Princess and see if that floats your boat. Because if there's nothing in that run that does anything for you, you're not going to get it.
I think a lot of people listen to Frank Zappa and they're like, it's just like nonsense music. You can't like it that much. And it's like, I do. I think I'll cop to a part of it being like, everybody hates Frank Zappa, so I'm unique for liking him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like that is the bit. And it's based in a very real feeling, which is like, I really do connect with the music because it's weird, it's experimental, it doesn't follow the rules, it's not concerned with like decency and radio play. It's just someone who's like, I wonder what it would be like if I did this. Well, we've reached the end of another episode of On the Record here at Out on That Line, our little special YouTube channel, our little corner of the internet. Thanks again for doing this. We've talked about it for a long time, and it finally came together, and I think it was great.
Yeah, I had a great time. It's very easy to talk about great music with somebody who appreciates it as much, or if not more, than I do. And I hope that if you've watched this, that you'll give it a chance. And the ultimate hope is that you'll like it, because ultimately, for me, what music is it's a tie that connects everyone. You might live across the world, but if you like this song and I like this song, we're connected, even though we've maybe never even met each other or never will.
So for another edition of On the Record with Out on That Line, and for friend of the show, Tanner, we're signing off again. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.